name's Marshall White, if you don't know who I am, and I really appreciate everybody showing up. It's tough with 2 days snow days, then trying to catch up from all the projects or work you've been putting off or what have you, but thanks for coming. Also want to thank Pete Larimer and his group from EPS, UNHIT EPS, for providing lunch today and providing these guys, I guess, Bill Campbell and Kirk Francis. They're going to talk to us today about System Center Configuration Manager. Hey, Michelle. And one other plug I want to make. What else? I guess in general, just we're going to try to do this every 2 months or so, and the vision is just to try to share knowledge, to try to help people become more efficient in the way that they work. If you have an idea for something that you know how to do, you think might help people out for the good of the order, then just shoot me an email, and we could even do 2 45-minute sessions back to back. It doesn't have to be an hour and a half. And we'll go from there. So, again, thanks a lot. And, Kirk, if you don't mind clicking the unpause button.
Oh, I already did.
Excellent. We'll have this captured, and I'll send the link out once after we do that.
Yeah, we're just getting my face right now, I think.
Just one. That'll work fine. I think your integrated webcam is probably better than that.
Well, it's just my face,
yeah,
which is fantastic, but maybe not.
No,
You'll want to know.
We're getting the audio and we're getting your don't worry.
There we go. So I guess I'm now. Can I change the video input? There we go. All right then. I'm Kirk Francis. This is Bill Campbell. Got Chris Pico backing us up. We're going to talk about Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager. If we advance to the next slide, here's where I was 30 seconds ago. So Bill and I are in enterprise technology services, and Chris is in academic technology. So we've been collaborating for a couple years on Configuration Manager, setting it up, kind of rolling it out. And lately we've been working on this presentation and doing a whole bunch of documentation. So you might want to know, now that you're here, what is Configuration Manager? It's Microsoft's device management solution. So primarily for desktops, but servers too. There is a mobile component, which we do not own, called Intune. But perhaps one day, if we ever get enough funding, that would be something we could do. It's part of System Center Suite, which includes Orchestrator, Service Manager, Virtual Machine Manager, Operations Manager, Endpoint Protection, a whole bunch of stuff that Microsoft does and does not make available to us, depending on which part you're talking about. With Configuration Manager, it's covered by our enterprise licensing, our CALs, enterprise CALs, and we just pass it along to you. So we're not going to charge you to use Configuration Manager. Kind of the trade-off is our endpoints accessing our enterprise applications, our endpoints accessing our network are a little bit more secure. They're managed a little better. So we think that it makes economic sense for us just to pass that along. This will become hopefully really interesting to you at the end of the presentation. How do you get your hands on Configuration Manager? We have an email distribution list that's available in the Outlook address book. It's CM12 admins. It's Configuration Manager 12 admins. You say, hey, I'm interested. If you have an organizational unit in the Active Directory or an OU, you're almost all set. Otherwise, we'll work with Sally Nickerson, who's our primary Active Directory administrator, to create an organizational unit. That's where you can store your machines. In theory, you can store your users. You can store your security groups, stuff like that. and report on them if you want, or drag and drop, move them around. We'll create in that organizational unit a security group that gets a group policy, which if you attended Casey Iring's Tech Talk #1, you probably know a bit about. So any machine that you end up putting into that security group will get that group policy within 90 minutes. And then the next time it's at the login screen, it'll install that without you having to do anything. So basically you're going to add a drag and drop, or right click and add, or you can go into the security group and then add a machine. There's some machines that are only on wireless, or they're never on secure wireless. You may have to install that by hand. That used to be a bear, but Bill took care of that. He made a cool little MSI installer for it that does all that for you. So we'll have a place where you can grab that on those cases, or if you don't want to have to wait for the next login. If you say, I want to test this in the next 5 minutes, you can grab that. Then we have to set you up with permissions for console access. I'm still in the process of tweaking that so it's perfect. But after that, when you add them to security group, they're going to install them. Kind of the good resources for you are the SharePoint site, which we've actually already migrated in 2013. So you can actually use that SharePoint site in Chrome, on Firefox, on a Mac, and it actually works. Which is going to be the new normal for SharePoint in the coming months anyhow. But if you want a little preview of what you wanted last time, it's already there for our site. That site's going to be holding a bunch of links. It's going to be holding a bunch of documentation. We made a bunch of videos, which you'll see today. We're going to put them into a Show Me library, which Adrian Andrews, who's in the corner there with the Dr. Pepper can, has been working on. Show Me's this really cool tool. It's kind of 0-level support. It's just-in-time training. So primarily right now we're using it for SharePoint. So how do I make a list in SharePoint? You can watch a 2-minute video and you know everything you need to know about lists. We're going to put stuff for like Box, stuff for Outlook, stuff for Configuration Manager in there. So you can watch a video if you have a question, and you'll have your answer in a couple minutes. Because of firewall and networking issues, ideally, in a perfect world, you'd install the Configuration Manager console. It would just connect. We've got a firewall or two in the way. So we've got a website where you can open up a remote desktop session, either to our server if you're on a Mac, or directly to the console application if you're on a PC. And you can save that file. We're going to host it on the SharePoint site. It's an RDP file. You can double-click it, authenticate, and it'll take you right to it. So it's almost like being there. And the last site would be our reporting site. It's a Microsoft SharePoint. It was Microsoft SQL reporting server. And that's where you can go and you can run all sorts of canned reports. We can make our own. I'm trying to figure that out. I don't know too many people who know how to do that. Even when I Google search, it's all people who already know how and they're not going to tell you, or people asking how to do it. So learning curve, but there's going to be some cool stuff coming out of that with hopefully some dashboards on Windows updates and whatnot. The focus of the Tech Talks is to have kind of immediate benefits. So we got kind of 2 categories for that that we came up with, which were invisible benefits. Benefits you're going to get. You may not even know you have it. You may know you have it, but once the machines are on Configuration Manager, you don't have to worry. You just have it. Foremost among that is updates. We can manage your updates for you. They're vetted. They're tested. Then they go out. You don't have to worry. Did I set Fred's machine and Susie's machine, or just Susie's? You can figure it out. It's going to happen. You can report on it. You can get compliance reports, which we'll go over. And you can see stuff like, oh, how come Fred's machine isn't updated, oh, this was the error, or I have to go out there and actually do some footwork. The idea is kind of to make things as easy as possible for you so you look better, with you having to devote less resources, which is what computers and automation are all about. The other invisible ones all have to do with endpoint protection, or System Center 2012 endpoint protection for Microsoft. It's going to handle your updates. So in theory, every 8 hours there's a new definition update. This will go out and get it and update it on your machine, on your endpoints, whether you have 20 endpoints or you have 200. The other thing that it does, and it's sneaky on Microsoft's part, if you have endpoint protection installed or SCEP, you get one scheduled scan. You can choose whether it's quick or if it's full. And that's all you get, and you want to run the other one, you have to do it by hand. Once you're on Configuration Manager, it magically unlocks the ability to schedule both of them. I think this is because Microsoft wants you to push you to be managed, which in our opinion is pretty good. You're also going to have some visible benefits, which are things you will notice, things you don't have to do something to get them, but most of them you do have to actually do something. These visible benefits are more for you as the local IT person's benefit than the end users. So malware alerting, we'll have a video on that. If I'm Joe User and Marshall's my tech guy, if I get malware,
You're in trouble.
Marshall may or may not know, right? And maybe I'm going to report to him, hey, I had malware. And he says, well, did it remove it? I don't know. When did it happen? I think sometime last week. Now Marshall will get an alert, which we'll go over. It'll say when, what it was, whether it removed it or not. And you can start making decisions on what to do based on that. You're going to have the reporting, which software compliance, what kind of video cards people have, how much memory, how much free space, stuff like that. You also have the self-serve software deployment at the application catalog. We call it AppCat because everything at UNH has to do with cats, just in general, but also the Wildcat. So we have a website where the end user can go. You can deploy things to the user to be available to them. So if they say, Marshall, can you come over and install Link for me? And you think, am I going to walk 10 minutes across campus and spend 30 seconds installing Link for them? You can say, hey, just go to appcat.unh.edu, click Link 2010, click install, and it'll do it for them. So now we have a live demo, which maybe I'm going to hand this over to Bill, going over kind of the major components. And I just got to move this. You're going to be logged in as my user account. If I can get that on the screen. I can find my cursor. There we go. Here, do you want to do it too? Apparently, I have cold hands. Just drag that over.
There we go.
Which is what I could not do on my machine. No? All right, watch this.
Close.
More than one way to skin a wildcat.
Okay. Well, now I have my notes. So this is the console. We're going to do the client tour first, right?
Yeah, whatever you want.
So, well, that's a console. Let's look at the client. So when you get ConfigMan installed on a machine, you're going to get several components. And now I'm going to start with Windows 8.
Right there.
I'm on Control Panel.
You want the control panel? So it's nice to know that you're not the only one
And this
struggling
one.
with Windows 8.
So in Control Panel, you're going to have Configuration Manager, Applet. And generally not going to interact with this. The only thing you might really ever use the Actions tab. If you want to force a scan, all these actions are scheduled, so they're going to run on a schedule. You don't have to do anything with them. But say you have a machine you just brought online, and you don't want to wait for it to check for updates. You just want to force it to check. So you run now on both the software update scans, but then it'll go out to ConfigMan and pull in all the updates that are available. And really, there's nothing else to look at here.
Configuration is the only other thing I can figure that'd be useful. If you do end up using configuration items, which we'll cover later, you can say, I don't want to wait for my schedule to elapse and then have a thing kick off. You can evaluate it right when you want on the endpoint.
I should have stayed back in control panel.
You must be a Windows 7 guy, huh?
Yes. Soon to be Windows 10.
All right, where do you want to get? There you go.
Software Center. And the Software Center is installed locally. And that's any software that's deployed to a computer, not to a user, but to the computer itself, or a collection of computers, is going to show up here. So right now, there's Kirk has, by virtue of being in some kind of a collection, he's got Box for Office Remote Desktop Manager deployed to his computer. And a whole bunch of other stuff he's installed from Software Center. And the last thing I want to look at is SCEP. So if you currently have SCEP on your machine, unmanaged, when you install ConfigMan, it's going to replace your unmanaged SCEP with managed SCEP. Like Kirk mentioned, now you get full scan and it's quick scan. And some of these settings are locked down. It's all by policy, so policy can be
Changed for a department or a college.
If you want, if you have a public machine, you don't want anybody changing anything, just lock it all down. Chris probably does that.
Yes.
If you have users, you want to be able to change the day they're scanned. We lock it down to you. You're going to have a full scan. It's going to happen on Friday. You can change the time. That's about it. You can change the time and you can change your how much CPU you want to use. The other thing it does is it adds exclusions. Microsoft has best practices files that you shouldn't scan with antivirus. All that gets added in by default. We don't do that. You can add additional files if you want. And so that's a good thing. Unmanaged SCEP, you don't get any of that.
Or you can do by hand.
Add exclusions.
Add all 80 exclusions by hand.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. And I've added
Per machine.
I've added some manually as well into mine. So those are the three major components. There's one more. I think that was it.
And shift F5, you're back there.
And then the application catalog. The application catalog is a web page you can go to, and this is software that's been deployed to users, so not computers, but to users. So if you're in a user group that you've deployed Office to, maybe everybody in your office has license for Microsoft Office, then you'll see Office somewhere.
I think it's in the second page. There it is at the very bottom. There's second at the bottom.
Project, not everybody gets project, but some people might, so you have a group of users that you want have that available to. And there's lots of stuff.
I got like 50 more slides. So.
Where's Java management?
Java management, search for Java.
Everybody wants that.
Did all that. Here's where I jumped the gun to, the console tour. So you're an admin, you want to get into the console, you want to start doing stuff, you want to maybe start deploying things or make a collection. Maybe you want to make a manual collection, you put your own machine just as a test machine. How do you do that? We have documentation we'll be putting up on the SharePoint site on how to log in, how to get to GAR, and then download that. But right now, I'm going to do that.
Go ahead.
Duplicate it for now.
So the first node is assets and compliance, and that's where we have all of our devices are listed, all of our users, which is great. You can peruse through them. But mainly we create device collections for deployments. So you have computers you want to deploy Office to again, you create a collection that has all your managed computers and that have you want to deploy Office to. So, for example, I guess we're advancement today.
Yep. We're in advancement in 2 of my machines.
So as advancement, we have all the machines in this collection. So
Those are all that are in the
machines.
OU, whether they're managed or not. And they have 171 of theirs are managed.
And this is a list of all the machines that have config.man installed. So if we want to deploy software to all their managed machines, we can, and we have. Nothing listed there.
Not to there, but yeah.
So pretty much anything you want to target 2 machines, you need to create a collection for. You might want to filter it down to all the Windows 7 machines with 32-bit, maybe some software you want to deploy to. Software updates. For all the collections of machines that we use to deploy software updates to. And apparently this user can't see them.
You can't see them. Yeah,
Move on to software library. Software library are the applications we've created that can be deployed. My favorite, because I spent a lot of time on it. Java management. So this is an application that was created with Java rule sets and a whole bunch of versions of Java that get deployed to machines to manage Java. Probably one of the more complicated
things we
deployments.
have ever done. That's the rule set that lets you, if you're not aware of it, you'll use the most recently updated version of Java for 98% of the stuff you do with Java. And for Famous or Banner, it's going to use the one specifically that it requires. So instead of saying I need 755, I'm going to install 755 and I'm going to use that for everything, which means that every vulnerability in there is you're exposed on every website that uses Java. And say I'm going to use the most patched version of Java for 98% of stuff, and 755 just for Famous or whatever that happens to be.
Basically, you create applications here, and you deploy them to the collections that you created under assets and compliance. And then monitoring, once you've deployed an application, you can go in and monitor it. So we deployed Java rule sets to advancement. And 109 machines installed successfully, and 62 machines are unknown, and they're probably all just turned off. Old computers. Are they in here from advancement?
No, not today.
They didn't show up. But so that was a
That's
pretty
good. I didn't ask if I could use them as their example. So.
That's a quick tour of the console. Where we
Yeah, we'll be
all the
revisiting a lot of
magic.
that and kind of showing how to use it. But we didn't want to just kind of drop you in without you knowing that there was a console and what it looked like. So a collection is a group of users or devices. They're mutually exclusive. So you can have a device collection or a user collection. You can report on them. You can manage them. You can deploy to them. So you could say, I want the history department to be this collection. I want the geography machines to be in this one. And I want the dean's office to be this other one. So that you're not accidentally deploying something to the dean when you're not sure 100% that it works every time. You can manually add a workstation to a collection. You can have a query based on an AD group, the operating system service pack level. You could do it, I think, based on memory. You might do it by hard drive space. There's all sorts of stuff. You can also, you can say, this is my collection, and everybody is, you can have it be consisting of included collections. You can say, I want this collection, but I want it to be really consisting of this other collection I made, this other collection I made, and you can exclude. So you can say, don't ever, no matter what I put for the rest of the queries, don't ever put the dean or the president's machine in there. Or you can say, don't ever put Windows XP machines in there because I hate them. The examples of collections would be workstations that need the Java rule set, workstations in the dean's office, specific operating system. Could be users who need software. So maybe you make a collection that is the dean, and anywhere that the dean logs in, and that machine is identified as a primary device, which does take some time. Maybe you want to make sure Adobe Reader better be on there, or she's not going to be happy. Firefox is her browser of choice, so Firefox better get on there. You can do stuff like that. We have a good video demo because from observing and presenting presentations, the first thing that always goes during a presentation is the wireless. So we made a bunch of videos, but that's also going to help you because we're going to post those videos so you can watch them at your leisure. And this one, we're going to create a device collection of Windows 7 machines that are in a specific department. And so we're in the console, in the assets and compliance area that we talked about before. You can expand that node. I'm guessing we're going down to device collections. And then we put most everything under UNH. We have a USNH area, a Wildcat area, but everything we care about is UNH internally. So you do create a device collection. You can name it. I suggest naming something useful. But instead, we're going to do Tech Talk demo instead of like our Windows 7 machines or whatnot. Any collection is limited to another collection, which means that it can only get machines or users from that other collection. It starts making sense. We say we want to be based on only our managed machines in Enterprise Computing Group, which is now ETS, on the second floor. But we want to know which one of those are Windows 7 machines. Kind of anticlimactically, it's almost all of them. So you can do it without a rule and just have a blank one. You can add them in manually. You can add a rule later. But we're going to make a query. If you're good at SQL, you're going to love this. If you're not good at SQL like me, you're going to be really glad that there's a GUI interface too. So we're going to edit the query statement. Go to the criteria tab, and we're going to click the yellow bloom to create a new criterion. And you can have more than one criteria, and you can do or and whatever you want. Everything just about that I've had to do, because I haven't cared about battery history, has been under system resource. If you want to, you can do all sorts of stuff. And in this case, we're going to choose the operating system, not the MAC address, not the NetBIOS name. And in everything I've had to do with Microsoft, I've used the asterisk for a wildcard, and this, it wants the percentage sign. So we said the operator is like, which means it lets us use that percentage sign. Workstation 6.1, which is Microsoft's code for Windows 7 or 2008 R2, because everything is really Windows NT something. So that's, if you knew SQL, that's what you'd get. We didn't have to know SQL. We just went through a GUI to get it. We could exclude a collection. We could say, I don't care about Fred's machine. You can make an incremental update. We recommend against it. You get too many incremental updates. They're updated every 5 minutes. You do that with 400 up collections. It eats itself. So we say just make a kind of a short schedule. So in this case, we're doing every 2 days. It'll reevaluate. We've created it. Click close. And you're going to see there's a hourglass. That means I'm still thinking. Give it a little bit of time. But we're impatient, so we're going to just have it refresh so we know the minute that it's done. And like I said, anticlimactically, it's almost every single one. It's 71 out of 73 machines. And Bill's group upstairs is a XP machine. Where that gets kind of cool is now you can do reporting off that. You can do deployments off that. You can do something like, I want to know all our XP machines, and you could make a collection of that, and then you could click and you could say, oh geez, we have 3 XP machines. It's been 9 or 10 months since those stopped getting updates. I need to do something about that. And so the hope is that you can proactively find issues, proactively say what's going to be an issue. If Banner says, I'm all going to work in Internet Explorer 11 starting in September, which I do not believe is the case. You could do something based on Internet Explorer versions, and you could say, okay, well, 12% of my machines are on this previous version. How am I going to tackle that? Am I going to upgrade the operating system? Am I going to replace the machine? Am I just going to install a new version of Internet Explorer? Software update is one of the out-of-the-box benefits. When we do Windows and Office updates, we'll get into this, but it's not been the best year for updates for Microsoft lately. So we can remove them from a deployment. We consume them before you get them. So if something breaks, I think it's actually me and Bill who die horribly first from a bad update, and then the rest of IT, or ECG, or ETS as we are now. And then everybody else. You can do compliance reporting. You can configure a maintenance window. So I've got a lot of our servers in a maintenance window. Says, oh, maybe Thursday from 3 to 5 a.m. is when you're going to do updates, because the rest of the time people are actually using you. So you can do that. We'll deploy a software update to it. It won't install until 3 a.m. on Thursday. By default, we don't force any endpoint to restart. That's a double-edged sword. Probably the worst thing you can do is say, hey guys, I did this new thing, and it's going to make your machine restart in the middle of doing your grant. Right? They're going to hate you. So we don't do that. We say don't restart. The bad side of that is if you have a user who just locks their computer and walks away every weekend and they never restart, there are going to be some updates that don't actually take effect until it restarts. But you can report on that. So which is a pretty new thing. We went to a conference in November and learned how to do that. It's pretty cool. So you can see which of my machines need to restart. And if it's 1 or 2, maybe not a big deal. If it's 90% of your machines, there's a big deal. You need to reevaluate. Or you could say, well, today's Friday at 4:59. I'm probably all set. People are probably going to shut their machine down at 5. We have another video, which I imagine Bill will want to take. And we're going to see all sorts of stuff. All sorts of stuff you don't need to know, and stuff you do, stuff that maybe if you're troubleshooting you need to know.
We're going to go into Software Center, where all our software gets installed, whether it's software updates or applications deployed to the machine. And there's nothing waiting, because the new machine just came online. So we need to actually, we could just wait, leave it online. Eventually the updates will come in, but we're going to force it for the sake of the video.
So that's back there is the CCM cache, which is where all the cache downloads go.
Okay, let's see that. So we go back to the Actions tab I showed you earlier. Run the software updates actions.
And that's going to kick off every hour, every 90 minutes anyhow.
Then we wait, not long, thanks to the magic of video editing. If you watch the timestamp in the corner, I was at home doing this, and it took a long time. 2:25.
Julia Child pulling it out of the oven.
So CCM cache folders where all your updates, all your software will come in and get cached. And so you can see it sort of coincided with showing up in Software Center, showing up in the cache. And it's already installed at 3:03, so half an hour.
Your connection's not very good, is it?
Huh?
So your connection's not very good at home, huh?
No, I think I was on wireless and I a little far away. And so notifications, there's a restart notification. That's all configurable too. You can configure so that users get a notification when software updates are available, and when they need a restart, or no notifications at all.
Yeah, by default we don't notify them at all about Windows updates.
We notify. I think one group gets notifications for restarts, and so.
This is the most important point. Your end user's never going to have to do that. It's going to happen automatically. But if you are impatient, or you just want to see how it works because it's kind of cool, or you want to see how it works because you'd like to know how it works before you deploy it to your people, that's how it works. Anything that gets installed goes through the Software Center. Whether you're getting it through an automated process, whether you're going to Software Center and saying, I want this, whether you're going to Application Catalog and saying, I want this, or the end user is. So the Windows updates get cached locally, and they install. So I think this is probably first or the second most compelling reason to do this whole thing. Is why should I use ConfigMan or Configuration Manager for software updates instead of just saying I want to automatically install my updates? I get kind of a piece on that. You can say, I'm going to set this in on my end users' machines to automatically do it. And whether they say yes or whether they don't restart, you've got no idea if you don't have some kind of management thing. So they could have 8 months of updates waiting on a restart, or they could have 8 months of updates waiting on them to click yes, install it. And just so, and one of the things, even internally in IT, we're like, oh, I can handle my updates, right? You shouldn't have to, right? They're just an annoyance. Someone should be doing this for you. And it's Bill. And that's what I do. I don't have to worry about updates except at home, on my home machines now. But magically, once a month, Bill goes in, he takes care of my updates. In my case, I get a notification. I get an icon that says you should restart, and then I know I should restart. And when I deal with some of our servers, I have a weekly report that gets emailed to me that says which of my machines needs to restart.
And yeah, before we play, so server, we do patch our servers with ConfigMan. Some people will literally patching with the servers, but it saves so much time. I mean, we had admins, once a month spending hours at home, after hours, patching their servers, and why? We have so much to do.
Yeah.
It saves a lot of man hours, probably 15 hours a month. In our
I've
group.
got servers where it just happens, just updates. Sunday at 5 a.m. It runs any updates it has. It looks at the window. It says how much time is it going to take for me to install this. I've never had it go over, but if it does, it says I'm going to do the ones I can, and then the next maintenance window I'll do the others.
Yeah. And for servers, we have, we install on dead test servers, and then the next weekend, some of our production servers get patched. So it's not, they don't all get patched at once, because that could be bad when Microsoft.
Yeah, so the link servers
updates
are updated through Configuration Manager, and each one has a different maintenance window on a different day. So that if you are, for some reason, awake at 3 a.m. and you're on a link call, or you're IMing with someone, they don't just go down. one of them goes down, you bounce to the other one, and then 2 days later, the other one gets it. We also have ones where it just makes them available. It's my server I want to install when I want to install. I want to install what I want to install. It makes them available. And we have ones where automatically it gets installed and it doesn't update. So it's gotta go. I gotta remember to go to the change calendar. Most of the file servers are going to be down during this hour on this day, and then I get to do that. Say go in there and say, yep, you can restart. So this is probably woefully familiar to you. Bad updates.
There were a lot last year. December, I think that it was at least 3, maybe 4 updates.
Yeah.
But almost every month last year, I was pulling updates out.
We got like two bad updates or something on some of Anna's machines, and she said, "Hey, this is the bad update." We yanked it. No one else got any, and she fixed it. Luckily, she knew how. She knew how to fix it on those affected machines, and because of Anna's vigilance, nobody else had to worry about that. And the rest were just mailing lists and news articles. So some of the questions are, how many bad updates were installed on your computers? Without management, you don't know. When did Microsoft pull that? I don't know. Did it get on my machine? I don't know. Did it get on 10 of my machines? I don't know. Did it get on all of my machines? I don't know. If you want to know, you have to go SneakerNet, desktop to desktop. Also, was this super important security update that we need on all our machines updated? Probably. I don't know. But if it's managed, you can go and you can check. I don't know if you want to talk about this guy here.
You're doing a good job.
I'll just blather on. So this is when it gets cool, right? So you can go onto our servers are Fred and Barney. You can go onto Fred, and you can do the reporting on your updates. So you say, this is my collection. In this case, it's all systems, but in your case, it might be the math department. Right? So these are all my updates for the math department. You can see what they are. You can click on them. You can get information on them. You can see how many were they. Here we go. How many was it installed on? Was it actually required according to Microsoft, or is it just a good idea? Stuff like that. I think we've got some animations. So you can see which ones, how many were required to have it. You can see the name, you can get the knowledge base article number. If you click on that, when it's pointing at that link, that's a link, you can get more information. A percentage, well, you can say to the team, it got installed on 72% of our machines. You can say it's not required on 20%, and I'm not sure on 10%. Everybody we talk to says 80. If you're patching 80 or 90%, you're doing a good job. And usually they say for every X percent more, it's X amount of dollars more. But certainly, you could, Pareto 80-20. You can go in and you can tell which machines they are. So you want to know which machines was it required that I do this on in this case. So you could do which machines didn't it install on. You can figure that out. You can figure out the last logged on user, who's Blankington. In this case, you got the device name, last time it checked in, last state change, the version of the config9 client.
So yeah, go to that previous. So if you look at the last state received, those machines have been turned off for a while. That's why they haven't been.
That's why it's still required and not installed, because these machines haven't been on in some cases for 5 months, and in some cases for 3 weeks.
And some of them may have been retired and need to be cleaned up, and that's whoever owns those machines, that's something they should be doing.
Yeah, once those machines,
they can report on it. Say, hey, all these machines are getting updated. Oh yeah, we retired 5 machines. Let's rip them out of config-man, rip them out of Active Directory, clean them up.
Yeah, so if I go trolling through Active Directory, I'll see back when, I'm forgetting his name now, the previous grad school dean, who I think is somewhere else at the university now. I see his machine. It's like a I don't think it's even XP. I think it's like a 2000 machine or something like that. I probably deleted it at this point. But if it's in your OU, so you can use group policy, so you can use configuration manager, when that kind of stuff happens, you'll have the ability to delete it. So stuff happens because you got thousands of machines and you've got one domain administrator. Stuff like that's not going to get deleted. Unless we pressure enough to do some automated stuff. But now you'll be able to control your own machines. You can also pre-stage your machine in your OU. So you can say, I know I'm going to name this machine Dean Richards, Dean-Richards. You can create that machine. When you join it to the domain, it automatically ends up in your OU where you put it. So back here, there may be some garbage machines in your OU soon, and then you can kind of clean them up or ask us to. We got all sorts of updates, overall compliance, specific software updates, computers in a specific collection, specific computers, specific software updates. It's more reports than you can shake a stick at. And when you click on them, you can see we've got this our patch Tuesday update. We've got 21 machines, 13 of them, or roughly 60% are compliant. It's had the patch installed. 20% are non-compliant. 4% haven't checked in lately. So you can figure out a lot more than you could by going around desk to desk figuring this out, and it's actually pretty easy. We want to go through, how are we doing on time? Good. So we'll go over a little bit on how Bill, you won't have to do this, but just so you know how it happens. We would have to have you log in, huh? So Bill's just going to show the process he goes through once a month to do the updates. Kind of show off a little bit more, kind of how the sausage is made. And you can see, since he's one of the primary admins, he has another node. He has an administration node.
So in software updates, we have automatic deployment rules, which run once a month. Well, Chris has one, I think maybe runs more often. But
Every Tuesday. Or every day.
every day, yeah. So my two run every second Tuesday when Microsoft puts the patches out. And they go out and based on criteria that we've established in those rules, pull in the updates for all the OSs we support, Microsoft Office, and all the products that we want to patch. Then that rule creates an update group. We go to Patch Tuesday workstation group for January. Those are all the updates that we
All
pushed
the
out.
OSs,
That we pushed out
including
for January.
for Itanium processors, which nobody, as far as I know, no one here is using. But they have their own updates, so we got to grab them.
It'll throw them in. We don't download them. If they're Itanium, we don't download them, but they're in the group.
So here's a cumulative security update for Internet Explorer 6. Hopefully you don't need that. And in fact, it says, yeah, 0 required.
Yeah. Yeah, so we didn't download it because we don't need it. For some reason we downloaded that one even though we don't need it. I don't know why. And then these are all the collections that are deployed to, so all the all the device collections. And there's a pilot one, so that's the first group that gets patches.
That's us. So
There's actually,
We're the canaries
actually I
in
should
the
say,
coal mine.
Bill's test group is the first ones that get patches.
That's him.
That's me and my VM.
he's the orphan we throw in before we throw
Then the
the
pilot one gets the next wave of patches, and then production, no restart. I don't think we have any machines in that with restart.
I think they do their COLA, and they'd have
Yeah.
one office.
But if there were certain requirements that group people had, we'd create different groups to patch to, different collections to patch, to deploy patches to. And that's essentially it. Then your status. So, this is a little misleading. Oh, so we don't even look at it.
But what it does is, it looks bad if it's not required, right? But you need that for those machines that do require it. See, maybe you've got 56 Vista machines, and everybody else is Windows 7, it's a patch only for Vista. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
So basically, you bring all the updates in of all different types, and then you sort of prune through them a little bit.
Yeah,
You run
and
it,
Yeah.
And if somebody out there in the ether said, whatever you do not install MS 14-080. So, whew, all right. Or if Anna finds another one, we go in there, we pull it.
pull it out.
Yeah, which is as simple as right-clicking, edit membership. and
Yeah.
Just
And then
unchecking it from
you can
wherever
also
it
report
is.
to say how many people did this go out to, and we can say, geez, Matt, we deployed a bad update to 2 of your machines. Hasn't happened besides those. I think the community right now is hyper vigilant for bad patches. So we subscribe to a patch management list, and it's going crazy every day. That includes other things like bad patches in Firefox and Adobe too.
So if we want to remove patches, you just uncheck the box from wherever they're deployed to. So it's very easy to pull them out. Without management, how do you pull the patches out? You get 2,000 machines getting automatic updates. You have a bad update. Good luck.
Shift F5. All right, we're going to get into the kind of the cool stuff pretty soon. So, cool stuff. Software deployment. All right, so I want to make sure that the dean gets this, his admin assistant gets this. I want to make sure that the new guy gets this, or I want to make this available to everybody. You got your choices. So, Software Center, which we've kind of gone over, is stuff that's deployed to workstations or stuff that is currently installing. That includes Windows and Office updates. So in this case, the screenshot, which you probably can't see, we've got Java management tools are available to the machine. Box for Office is available to this machine. So if it's available, the user can hop into Software Center, say I want this one, click install. You have the application catalog, which is user-focused. All the cool buzzwords you can use about it. It's self-serve, it's just in time, and it's one-stop shopping. So I can go there and I can say, I'll take one of these, and one of these. Right? So if your user says, really need Visio, and you don't want to go across campus to their office and then sit there with an installation CD or DVD, you could make it available to a couple users, and when they need it, they could install it through here. Which is, I think it gives them a warm, fuzzy feeling to do things themselves. I'm going to install this. Oh, yeah, right? I've just got Visio. Fantastic. It also makes you look smart, but it saves you time because you don't have to truck it across campus, or you don't have to, you can say, hey, these 8 people, it's available here. Go get it yourself. You don't have to install it on 8 people's machines. They don't need to access a network share or grab a CD or a USB drive, then try and install it, and then hopefully we are getting away from having users having admin credentials on their box. It's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but that would be nice for security reasons. they don't have to say, okay, well, the user access control came up. Can you walk me through this? They just go to a website and click a button. Application deployment to a computer. We are going to show you how to create a deployment. It's going to be a required install. You have available and required. Required stuff happens when you tell it to. Available stuff is available for the user when they feel like it or when you tell them to. But a required one is you can schedule it. It's going to happen. We're going to deploy it to a device collection. You could do it to a user collection. That's a little hairier. We're going to say it's going to be installed as soon as humanly possible. The other thing we could do, we could make it an available installation. We could say, I'm not going to install it until March 22nd at 2:37 p.m. Or you could do it to a user collection shows up in the application catalog. This video is not too long. It's got a nice thing there. So say Box Edit, just as an aside, Box Edit is fantastic. If you don't know about Box Edit, you should educate yourself. It allows you to go in, or the user to go into the web console for Box. They click a file. They say, I want to edit it in Box Edit. It copies it down locally, decrypts it, lets them make all the changes they want on their machine using Word, using Excel, using Adobe, whatever. And then when they're done, it saves it back up. So you don't have to worry, did I set it to sync? Is it syncing? All that kind of stuff. So as long as you've got an active network connection, you're good. So we're going to say we want to install that today. We want to deploy it so that it automatically gets on the machines and they don't even have to know it's there. They just go to the website and they click a button and they're editing stuff locally. So we're going to go to software library, go down, I put them all under box apps. There's some cool box apps besides Box Edit, but we're doing this one. There's no deployments now. So this is actually kind of easy. We're going to right click and go to deploy. This is one that's already been distributed, so you don't have to worry about that, but I do have documentation on how to do that if it's a new application or if you're adding an application. I'm going to slow it down a little bit if I can. All right. So what we've done so far, I can get the cursor. It's counterintuitive because it's left to right is right to left on here. So you got your software that you've chosen. You want to deploy it to a collection. You just have to go to Browse. Sometimes it'll default to user collections. When you want to do a device collection, you have to click there and choose device collection. You navigate around. We keep almost everything in UNH. And what we do to keep it from being super annoying, where you log in and you see 80 collections and 5 of them have to do with you, we've scoped it. So you see your 5. If you make a 6th one, you see that one. But when you're, somebody in a different department, a different tech person logs in, they see their stuff, not yours. Let's go there. We'll choose it. In this case, it's our Tech Talk demo collection, which you're probably not going to name anything that. But it's got one machine in there. It's mine. It's already distributed, so you don't have to worry about that. But again, I have documentation if it's not distributed yet. We're going to make it a required install. So it's got action and purpose on the screen, on the deployment settings. You can actually deploy and uninstall. So if you're like, geez, I installed whatever, I don't, Firefox, but now I really like the new Vivaldi browser. I want everybody to lose Firefox. You can do an uninstall. You make it available, or in this case, required. Got a couple more things we can do. You can pre-deploy the software so it's already cached. So it caches sometime this week, and next week we have a thing that says, hey, install it now. So you can do that if you wanted to, that way you don't have to wait. Scheduling, this is where you can tell it what you want to do, and you got a couple of options. We can schedule a time for the application to be available in the Software Center. So if you want to say, I want it to start being available in Software Center on Tuesday, and if they haven't installed it by Friday, I want it to automatically install. You can do that if you wanted to. And it's a really nice thing here. Videos are nice, but they're a little. Here we go. So as you can see, it's that kind of a drop down. You have your calendar. I've gone as far as 2018, just fooling around. I don't know why you'd want to, but you could schedule it 3 years out in advance. We get to choose what kind of notifications we want. And right here, by default, it'll only install during a maintenance window. You can say, hey, with this software installation, I want it to install outside of a maintenance window. I don't care that I'm only patching machines for software updates on Thursdays. This is a Monday and we need this. Just check that off. And we're going to see a whole bunch of stuff. You can say, every single notification I want them to know about, I only want them to know about some of it. And we're going to choose we want it to be invisible to the user. So hide all Software Center, hide Software Center notifications. You can also do alerting. I haven't done this because the alerts come in to the console and you never check it. So I would much rather use either reporting, because you can report on what machines have what, and you can do it with monitoring. So you can monitor deployment. So as we did, we pushed out Java rule set to 100-something machines and advancement, and we were able to check in every couple hours and say, okay, another 20 got them, another 12 got them. That's my preferred way, because you're never going to check those alerts unless you live inside the console. The summary is kind of your last chance to make sure you did everything right. It's all going to be written out there for you. You can say, oh, geez, I said required. I want it to be available. And then you can go to previous and back up. So in this case, our deployment looks great. So we're just going to click next. And here we go. It's successfully gone over. You can go over it again. If you need to, you can delete it or change it. But we've just successfully created a deployment. That video is under 2 minutes. And that's taking time to explain what you're doing. So you can deploy it in about a minute. Now those machines, the next time they evaluate, we'll get that. But if you don't want to wait, you can, in the client, you can go there and you can force an evaluation.
Are you only able to do software that's in an MSI format, or can it handle other things?
It can handle other kind of stuff. It's a lot easier for you if it's an MSI. With an MSI, it's going to populate almost everything you need. It's going to have the install, it's going to have the uninstall, it's going to have the detection method. So it's just, it's almost lickety split on putting an MSI. You can do EXEs, you can do batch files, command files. You got to do more work. You got to tell it, install Firefox 40 if the previous version of Firefox either doesn't exist or if it's below 40. And you got to put in the command line to uninstall it. So MSIs are much easier. But you can definitely do it with all sorts of stuff. So we're going to do it from the other side of the coin. So if I'm a user, what does this look like? And we're going to do it for something in the application catalog, so deploy to a user. And I think we're going to check in Software Center because we are tech people and we want to know how stuff's working. But the end user doesn't need to know that. So if I'm the end user, I'm going to Internet Explorer. It'll actually work in Chrome now. I go to appcat.unh.edu. It's 2 P's, easy to remember. I authenticate with my AD credentials. I've got to have the client installed for this to work right. But I go and I find what I want. This is Toad. So if I'm an Oracle guy, which I'm not, so I don't know what Toad does, I'm going to install Toad. I select it. I click install. It says, you sure you want to? I say, yep. There it's evaluating the requirements. You can say stuff like, I'm only going to install this if you're Windows Vista or Windows 7 or if you got 30 gigs free because it takes 30 gigs. So as a user, I'm waiting. As a nerd, I'm going to go into here into Software Center, and I'm going to obsessively watch it. You can see in the Installation Center, it downloaded it pretty fast. Now it's going to install. The user would see this. In this case, you can make it invisible if you want. But we put a progress bar.
Yeah, for me, if it's the application catalog and somebody going to click on something, I like them to have a progress bar so they see something happening. Otherwise, they're going to click that and go.
Did anything happen? I have no idea, right?
And Toad actually installed. This is actually a script that runs 3 installs. There's 3 MSIs for Toad. So it should be 3 progress bars.
And then the user gets an alert.
But
Hey,
again, it took much longer than that in reality.
that. And then if you were to go to that other tab, you would see that it was now installed. So the user doesn't have to do anything with Software Center. The user doesn't have to check the progress. The user clicks something, he or she sees a bar. He or she doesn't see a bar. He or she sees a notification that's done or doesn't, depending on how you deploy it.
And when you set up an application, with an MSI, it automatically populates the detection method with the what do you call it, string?
Yeah,
The product string, product ID.
it's deep down in the registry. If you've ever had to search through that, it's a pain.
You know, but you can have, your detection method can be, if this file exists in this directory, then we're going to call it a successful installation.
Yeah, so Firefox.exe exists in this, we're golden. And if it's version 40 or above, we're good. It worked right.
And the users don't have to have admin rights to do this.
Correct. Yeah. Which is pretty cool. Because Microsoft's thing is, we'll make it really difficult to do anything without admin rights, and then tell everyone they shouldn't have admin rights, which from a security standpoint makes a lot of sense because it prevents them from messing things up. But from a user perspective, it's a pain in the butt. Because either I have to use the user access control and put in my password to an admin account on the machine that I know, which defeats the purpose of doing that, and annoys me as the user, or I have to say, hey, Dave, can you come out and can you put in this password, and then you've got to hightail it to that office, and sometimes that office is next door, and sometimes it's in a different county. It's in Coos County that you have to go out there just to install software. Not fun, right? So System Center Endpoint Protection, that's the malware protection. Let's see, Unmanaged SCEP only allows for one scan type that's automated. When you're managed, you get 2. It does include the exclusions according to Microsoft's best practices. For some of our servers, we have other exclusions. So the Exchange servers never scan this. The Link servers never scan this. Maybe the Oracle servers, if they're even Windows, I don't know, they wouldn't scan this. It's policy-based, so you can lock it down, they can't do anything, or you can say they can do whatever they want, or anything in between. So you could say, I want it to scan, I want it to be this time, but I want them to choose what percentage of the CPU to use. You can do that.
If you ever used the slide here and left a couple of bullets that don't belong here.
We'll get into that then, which is the call the user and all that. So we'll get into alerts. Email alerts are sent to a designated tech person, so they're aware of it, and then they can follow up on it. What's in a malware alert that you as a tech person gets? The computer name, the infected file and location, it's the Universal Coordinated Time, which is UTC, because I think it's French, which is basically Greenwich Mean Time, but not quite. And I don't know how to change that, and I've asked our consultant how to do it. And he's asked Microsoft, but it hasn't happened
I
yet.
guess because it's used worldwide.
That's right.
If
So
you're a company that has offices across the planet. You want to standardize on one time.
So Wells Fargo, Brian Mason he's got 350,000 clients that he's managing. They're probably all not in Minnesota. Some of them are probably on the East Coast, some of them are probably on the West Coast. So with the UTC, all the admin people who might receive that know at this time, UTC, not, okay, was the East Coast, was it Mountain Time, was it Central Time? They know. It also tells you what, this is a good distinction, remediation action that it tried to take, and then whether or not it succeeded. So it'll tell you whether it tried to remove it, whether it ignored it, whether it quarantined it. But it'll also tell you whether it succeeded at that. So you can do stuff. So under what do I do now as a tech? If it's Monday and you removed a virus successfully, do I trust it or do I want to do a scan? You can force a full scan if you want. If it's Friday, right 10 minutes before the automated scan that's going to happen at noon, you can say, it's going to scan anyhow. I don't care, right? Or you could say, it failed. I'm going to hightail it over there, and I'm going to be there within 15 minutes and say, hey, Dean, I saw that you had a malware alert. I'm going to make sure your machine is clean, which will either he or she will love because you're on top of things, or they'll hate you because they're trying to do something. But you know their personality better than we do. You can also force a definition update or force a scan from the console. So if you want to scan their machine and you don't want to bother them, you can. We've got a cool video. We're going to see the user notification that something got detected. We're going to see an email alert that the desktop admin receives. It'll be you. And then we're going to view how the malware detections are viewed in the monitoring node in the console. I'm going to get more information about the malware. So if you've ever fooled around with virus protection, there's a magical file, which is the, hey, I'm an evil virus. That's not really an evil virus. It's the ICAR file that's stands for something. I'm pretty sure the I is international. Probably the A is antivirus or something. But it's a file that is kind of the standard detect me for everything. So we're going to see how this works. We're going to grab that file. It's going to be detected. And what do I see as a user and what do I see as a local tech person? So icar.com.txt, we're going to click on it. Do you want to, oh, hey, I cleared that. I'm cleaning that, right? So the end user probably notices that, unless they've got multiple machines or they're not paying attention, which is another good reason that you know about it as a tech person. And no matter how many times we try and get it to do that, it just doesn't let us because SCEP cleans it. Now if I go into SCEP as a user, I can see my history of detected items. So if you're a power user or if it's your machine, maybe you want to know, you want to take a look, you can read all about it. This one was a virus, it's really an ICAR file. And then we just cleared it from our history. Meanwhile, Bill's checking his email. And when detection occurs, he gets it. So this is pretty cool. He gets what's the, how many times was it infected? What was it? What time was it? What machines was it? Were they? Basically everything he needs to know. He knows that it tried to remove it. That's good. He knows that it succeeded. That's better. If he sees like 20 of these, perhaps he knows there's a problem. Maybe something's going on with that group. If he goes into the console, goes to monitoring and malware detected. You can see there's one infected machine. It's his. So maybe he doesn't want to tell anybody because it's embarrassing that he's the only guy who got it. And you can see the status. Did it succeed? What kind of viruses did it get? Say he wants to know more about it. You can double click that, or you can go up to malware detail. Opens up. You can read all about the technical information. Maybe it says, hey, you know, you should check this registry setting. Make sure it didn't change.
It reminds me how far we've come, because it's like 5 or 6 years ago on Earth Day when we had that the bad McAfee DAT file, and a ton of technical people, including Terry Winters, the directors, a lot of the directors in IT met at 125, the training room, or lab in at Levitt Lane, and we probably made 100 of these CDs, and people went out all over campus, and it was kind of a nightmare. So this is.
One at a time, one at a time, one at a time. Yeah.
About that, right?
Yeah. Now you'll never sleep again, Marshall, because you remember it. So, update and scan from the console. You can update the definitions. You can force the workstation to scan. Again, these are automated anyhow. But if you've got some kind of pressing issue, or if you get that malware alert, and you don't want to have to go to Keene, New Hampshire, to go to that office and run a scan, imagine that, if you don't want to do that. So we're in our console. You've got our naughty machines somewhere in here. Under assets and compliance, we're going to navigate to our collection. In this case, it's all the Windows 7 machines. In advancement, if you remember earlier how the Bills collection was really anticlimactic, this one was even more boring because every single machine that's managed in advancement is a Windows 7 machine. But we're going to click on Show Members. You can also right-click to get that. And we're going to pick our infected machine. In this case, 0-UA-BK17XZ1. That'll be on the quiz at the end. We can right-click it, go to Endpoint Protection. We've got a whole bunch of stuff. In this case, that was us searching for it, finding it. And we're going to say download the definition. So whatever the latest definition is going to be pushed out to that machine. Or rather, it's going to be pulled from that machine, but we're going to tell it to pull it. So now you know it's got the latest definition and you want to scan. Just do the same thing. Get to Endpoint Protection and just choose either full scan or quick scan, depending on what you want to do. Quick scan takes a couple minutes. It hits the usual places. Full scan searches every gosh darn thing it can. Yep. It's like the wordiest one we have. We'll probably ignore it, the words on it. But it's cut and paste from the documentation that we're going to post on our SharePoint site. So say you've deployed software and you want to know, has anybody got it? Is it working right? You can do that. And it gives you a nice pie chart. You got March is Pi Day, so we'll have pie charts in advance. Under the Configuration Manager console, just go to Monitoring, as you might imagine. Go to our deployments. It's going to list all our deployments. In this case, we've only got one, so it's pretty easy to find. If you've got 40 deployments, good for you first, but also you can use the search mechanism to get it. So go there, you'll want to click on View Status. You can see right there, 3 of the machines are good, 3 of the machines are still installing. Luckily, 0 errored out, but we want more information. Maybe we want to know which machines those are. We can do that. So we can view status, which you got either the exclamation point up in that corner or down there. You can click view status because it's Microsoft. Usually there are 3 ways to do everything. And you can see which machines were successfully deployed to, which ones are in progress. You can also see why is it in progress. So for this machine, we know the content's been downloaded but it hasn't installed yet. Another machine is waiting for the user to log off before it installs. Another one is installing a dependent application. So you can have an application that depends on another one being there. You say, I want to deploy this, and if that other application's not there, I need you to also install that. So that's the monitoring. We'll have documentation for that up soonish on the SharePoint site. I've got to convert them all to PDF and then post them. So now maybe you've set a policy for change a policy for a workstation, user, computer, maybe it's a deployment policy, but you don't want to have to sit around and wait for this to happen. So every 90 minutes it checks in. See, I got better things to do than sit around for 90 minutes. You can force it. In the console, you can go to Assets and Compliance. You find your workstation collection, your device collection, or I would say device collection. I don't know if you do it on a user collection or not. Show members. That takes you up into devices and then enumerates it. Find the one you want to look at, right-click it, go to Client Notification, which is a monitor with a word bubble, because apparently you're talking to the computer. You can force it to download the computer policy or the user policy. So if you've got the policy for users, you want to make sure that that computer is enforcing it. You can do the download user policy. If you've got a policy for computers, you want to make sure that computer is enforcing it. You can do download computer policy. Or you can go to lunch and come back. So a lot of times when we're fooling around with settings, that's what we end up having to do. Force it. I don't want to wait. I want it now. And you've got the power to do that.
So we're getting close to 2 o'clock. How much more do you have to
Oh.
get through, just in case people have questions?
Yeah, I can talk faster. We can skip some of the videos. I just know that they're going to be on the website. 2 of our favorite reports are software update compliance. There's the links to them. They're ugly, but they're also in the SharePoint site in a nice clickable form. Software compliance tells you whether you've actually installed the software updates that you think you have and which ones have and haven't. Installed software, so maybe you're thinking about doing this Java management stuff. You can take a peek. How many different flavors of Java do I have? And it's probably worse than you think. If you got a video demo, this PowerPoint will be up on the SharePoint site, so you can watch how to do that. Maybe super fast. Right, so you go in here, you do that. That looks horrible. So you memorize the name of the report, Software 06A, and you can search for it instead. You can choose your collection, and you say, I want Java. That's a typo. Another one, you want to enter the maximum number of rows to return. And you go, and you can start exploring. Who's got Java 6 Update 17? That infuriates me. You go here, and you go, oh, it's my boss, never mind. Right? So now you can start doing stuff like I'm going to uninstall the deployment. You can get rid of all these old versions of Java 17 that are just cluttering things up. Or you could deploy the Java management rule set, and it would ignore that old one. Configuration items are awesome, but they're really difficult to get your head around. Configuration item is used by a configuration baseline. Configuration item determines compliance for different things. So whether that's a registry key, maybe it's a registry key that forces Explorer to show the file extensions in Explorer, Windows Explorer. Maybe it's a printer you want to have installed on all your machines. Maybe it's a file. You want to make sure that the Java rule set is installed. All these different kind of things. Basically, if you can script it, it can happen. If it's a registry value, it can happen. It's a lot like group policy in that way, but you can actually set it up to report on it. And you can tell it to remediate. If it's not doing it, you can tell it to create a collection based on that. So I have a configuration baseline that checks whether machines have rebooted since they've installed Windows updates. And if they haven't, it dumps them into a collection. And I can just go check that collection, and I see, oh geez, FP1 hasn't restarted because I'm too lazy to put it on the change calendar and restart it. So I know I've got to do that sometime soon, probably this weekend. Use scripts, queries, files, registry keys, registry values. Up there, is there a license file? Whatever you really can think of. We won't go through this whole thing. I've got documentation and a video on how to create one for printers. So you go through all here. I put this in the wrong order. I'll take care of it. I'll fix it up afterwards. You have to configuration item to build a baseline off of. But then you can have it self-remediate. So this crazy thing I was working on the other day, I don't have this documented yet, but I can make a baseline that I would deploy to every machine on the first floor of One Levitt Lane that says, you're going to have the first floor printer, you're going to have the second floor printer, and your default's going to be the first floor printer. So if that first floor printer stops working, which happened last week, you can say, well, just go use a second floor printer for the rest of the afternoon until we get the tech out to come fix it. So this is real time, where I can go into the control panel applet. I evaluate my first floor printer setup. I've got no printers right now. There's a picture of Matt. But we can sit around, we can wait. Here we've got that printer being installed, being set to the default, and then it's going to install the second floor's printer as well.
Kirk, I hate to cut you off. We only have a couple more minutes, but I also want to say this is great, and I really appreciate it. Put our hands together for Kirk as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good title, thank you. And I mean, this is exactly what we were hoping to do with Tech Talks. I mean, you showed us.
There's too much to cover.
Yes, it's lots to cover. You showed us where to get it, how to use it, the benefits, and we captured it. So we hope to share that link out with everybody here by the end of the day tomorrow. One thing that I neglected to tell you is that I think our lecture capture software, Tegrity, doesn't do really well with videos, so I'm not sure how it's going to look, but we'll see.
We'll
see.
put it on the SharePoint site,
Okay,
so you can watch those videos at your leisure.
great.
We'll put the documentation up so you can get more information, and we'll put our contact info there. So you can ask questions, you can ask how to get in there. You can go and you can get all these guys on Twitter. You can see what books you might want to look at, stuff like that. Just super important slide that we need to get to, if I can find it, is, where do we got here? I'll just say what it is. It's thank you. So thank you to Marshall, Casey, and Holly who invited us, and thanks to all you for attending. It was kind of a shotgun blast of information,
Great.
but that's why it's going to be up there, so you
We've
can
got a
consume
couple
at your
minutes
leisure.
for questions. If anybody questions for these guys?
Similar question.
Super valuable.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's sort of like a minimum number of computers that the work involved in setting up the different rules and stuff, and then the time you save worth it?
One, I guess. I mean, the cool thing is everything that Chris can do in a minute and a half to deploy an app, he can deploy to all 500 of his machines, and it happens. But I think that's, at this point, it's probably worth it for 4 or 5 machines. If you're a small office, there's still reporting. If your dean or your college president or whatever we have wants to know something, you can pull it up. You can make automated reports even, so you get this every week, just a blast of information. Even if it just makes you look cool, perhaps it's worth doing that. So when your evaluation comes by every year, you can say, oh, well, you know, I prepare these reports every week, or I know we've never dipped below 80% compliance on Windows updates. And, you know, last year, were you thinking like, I bet I could tell my boss we never dipped below 80% compliance on Windows? Probably not, you know? So,
I mean, there's not a lot of effort to set you up with ConfigMan to get Windows updates and SCAP.
yeah.
That's out of the box. That's like the simplest thing you can do.
So if you
know,
don't do
good.
any application deployment, you don't do any configuration items, you don't do any reporting, you can at least get your machines into it. We'll set up a security group and an OU for you, and then you add your machines to it, and they get updates, and they get SCAP.
And they'll have access to the application catalog, you know, where we publish, you know, applications in Firefox, the free stuff, as well as Microsoft Office. If you're on the campus agreement,
We could do that, yeah.
then you have access to that.
Yeah.
You guys have to use it for like Flash updates or?
You can,
Yeah.
and I've done it in the past. So that's one we could use. You could also use like a configuration item or even a deployment with it's probably an XML file at this point that says, hey, always update automatically. So it can be done.
And there's third-party applications that integrate with it that we can expand and patch a whole lot of other things. But that costs money, and but down the road, if there's demand for that, then somebody can find money.
The Flash one is free. It's just
Yeah, Flash.
it's just a pain.
Yeah, I do Flash and like the Dell updates,
Yeah.
something else.
I'll be free.
All right, thanks very much, guys.
Thank